Hello, and welcome to episode 7 of Overheard Orlando. You may find this episode is a little later than normal as the reopening here in the state of Florida has kind of left my schedule changing quite rapidly. That being said, I will do my best to have this episode out in a timely manner. Today I'll be talking with Omar Ramo. He's a local Orlando artist, and he will be discussing the importance of community. He will be discussing mental health and his recent appearance in Orlando Weekly. On that note, let's jump right in. I know you're a visual artist. I know a lot of people know you're a visual artist. I want to start by asking, what is the reason for that medium? Why did you choose visual arts over music or over writing or any of the other options that have laid themselves before you at any given time? Why painting and drawing?
That's a good question, actually, because I grew up in a family where I had, for instance, my father, he plays saxophone at such a young age. And I remember when he was playing, I was very intrigued into that. So music is a big part in our family, and also dancing. But my sister, she picked up on dancing. My brother picked up on film. And I remember when I was such a young age, roughly around 6 years old, I walked into my uncle's room and I saw him drawing portraits. And I was very intrigued by it. So that captivated me. And I was like, okay, well, let me give it a shot, grab a paper and pencil, and let me just start drawing portraits. From there, I felt I guess from support from families and all that, it came to me and they're like, hey, you know what? You have a talent. You have something right here. You have a gift. And I was like, okay, sure. Let me just continue and keep drawing. So I kept practicing due to my family's background on again, art. And I just progressed slowly with that. And then when I went to, for instance, high school, took drawing classes and AP studio classes. And from there, I developed a little bit more into visual arts. I got more into that and appreciate it because I'm not saying that I don't like reading things. I love reading comic books and articles and things like that, but I was not really gravitating into words. I was more gravitating into expressing through painting, through sketching, because that was something that I grew up with a talent that I had within me. And I just decided, you know what, I like to express it this way. That's just my own way to communicate with the audience through visual arts.
So, as can be said with any other art form, be that music, be that writing, or whatever the case may be, each piece of art should give you a different takeaway. If you were to kind of put all of your art under an umbrella, any given person who is looking at a piece done by you, what is the takeaway? What do you want most of all? They're going to obviously interpret what they want out of your piece, but what is the one message that you wish people would take away from any given piece of your art?
Well, from starting from just drawing characters, like Disney characters, people were intrigued by that at first, and then any characters, period. But when I started working on developing portraits and developing, sketching landscapes and animals and all that, I became more spiritual as I was growing in my teenager years, and I started drawing more things that came from a religious point of view, symbolics. From there, I was like, okay, well, I'm expressing something that I believe in. And then after that, I decided, I grew up and my ideas and beliefs changed. And as I stepped into the outside world as an adult, I networked a lot and I listened to many people's opinions and beliefs. And from there, I guess I can say I started evolving in my arts, and it started coming from, again, characters to spiritual up to what I actually stand for, which currently right now I stand for, supporting the LGBTQ community. My goal is to actually keep supporting that and develop pieces where it draws attentions to, anybody in that community. It is powerful because it's still symbolic. You can't really completely see whether it's something to do with gay or lesbian, trans, but you can see based on the description that it I guess it's very cohesive within the words that are described and the painting, and that draws attention because it's a little bit different. I mean, my medium right now currently it's digital, but I also mix it with when I print the paper and all that, I add some watercolor into that. I add acrylics or oils and things like that to stand out a little bit more. So mixed medium is definitely something for me, like um, to express different, I guess, feels and moods, to draw attention to people, to draw again the message of this community that I believe in, that I'm a part of, more because we have to fight for this.
So if I'm hearing this correctly, the more that you create and the more that you create art, the deeper you kind of dig into yourself, and and that's where you've kind of found
This type of work that I'm trying to do, this message that I'm trying to do, because it does relate to where I have been. Again, starting from characters as a kid to my teenager years doing spiritual stuff, which I walked through in my lifetime as a teenager, and then up to the community when I stepped out. I actually developed this type of relationship that I felt like, this is a message I need to show visually to other people. It is strong, it is political in a way, but it's true.
I think it's a common misconception or a common stereotype that artists are very troubled or very have a lot of issues or are very deep, which is not necessarily a bad stereotype. But I'm sure that your art, at least in some way, shape, or form, has been reflected from some of your past issues or trauma or mental health issues. What would you like to say on that front? Or what would you like to say in regards to mental health, not just in creators, but just in people in general?
You already know the whole term of coming out. And I'm quoting this right now, coming out. I really don't. I know it's like a term for people to, again, step out from their comfort zone and to be true to who they are in front of people, um, or public, or even yourself. Um, I never liked that term because I always felt that this is something that is already within me, and I just transitioned slowly. Um, as a teenager, it was not. It was confusing for me a bit, because I have feelings towards different genders. I have feelings, and I remember, I can't verbally discuss what's really going on within me. So art, again, was the only thing that I can do to actually express the moods that was going through. And sometimes that's like you're in your own head, because again, like you mentioned earlier, like why you chose art and all that. I wasn't really big on communicating my feelings. I just didn't understand what's going on within me in my own head. So as I was kept growing as an adult, I kind of realized that I was going through some mental problems, which did some research and found out that it runs in my family, like depression and anxiety. I currently don't take any medications with that because I use art as my therapy. I do obviously hope that others, if they don't have any outlets to do so, take those medications and all that. But with art itself, it's a therapeutic thing. I have expressed certain things that was going on with my head when it came to come out. I remember this image back when I was in my early 20s. I decided to do this 7 feet tall basically an image of hugging myself. One body was cool with a cool color and the other with warm color, and it's basically, it's just having that balance and that love that I needed to seek within myself, and I portray that again in the image and in the arts, and I realized that this is actually the first step that I ever done after the whole spiritual, religious, and all that views. I decided, you know what, I need to focus a little bit more what's really going on within myself. And again, art was the only form that I can actually communicate to others what was really going on.
It's quite interesting that you kind of mentioned that you can't always fully express yourself in words. And you also mentioned that you used, for example, warm and cool colors to express yourself in a way that you were able to express yourself via colors as opposed to words. So I kind of want to ask or see if you can, at least by some roundabout way, explain the kind of translation between feelings to words to colors or shapes or whatever. How does a feeling go from words or potentially words that you can't explain to colors and to shapes and to imagery? What is the process of kind of processing, without being redundant here, those images onto canvas or paper or whatever the case may be?
Well, again, words. Words is a language, just like arts is a language, in my opinion. Music is a different language as well, like the tunes of the music and all that. I When I do feel those lows, um, it just gets into my head so much that I just don't know what else to do. You understand? Like I can speak with my friends, I can talk to my family, but then it's like it's repetitive, you know. So I sometimes like have to like really sit down and I have to meditate in some ways. If meditation doesn't work to take that emotions out, I'll listen to like Philip Glass. I very like old school. By the way, I'm only 30 years old, okay? But like I tend to like listen to Philip Glass. I tend to listen to Max Richter, Ludovico Einaudi. I could be completely wrong. He's French. I'm sorry, I'm not French. But I listen to classical music. They're depressing music, by the way. Some of them are. So I with those it just comes out. When I listen to that, I'm in the zone and I just literally just like feel it. And when I feel it, it's just like, yeah, this feels right. Let me paint this. I'm so dramatic too, by the way. I mean, I have you seen I could be wrong, but Little Glass or Hourglass or Little Glass, something like that. Anyways, so there was this movie based on a biography of Salvador Dali. So um in the movie, the actor who played Salvador Dali, I remember this one scene, and he went crazy on his big canvas, and he grabbed black paint and he started like painting and all that. But really, what it is going on is that's the moment where you actually are expressing and pouring your true self on a canvas. You're being vulnerable. You're actually expressing these things. So when this happens, again, I play the music. I grab a brush and I grab paint and I just pour it and I just do it. And a lot of my images, my fine arts, you can see portraits and images of myself, which is, I'm my own worst enemy. And I'm just like, and also wanted people to understand and know that this is real. This is who I am. And I want to have someone to actually see it and can kind of build that relationship and can relate. So that's my message across when I do paintings like these things.
When I see certain paintings, I kind of can instantly relate or not relate or relate somewhere in between. And it's really nice when you find someone who kind of gets it and kind of understands what you're going through. Again, even when it's not something that you can necessarily vocalize in the terms of language or in terms of ways that other people could understand. So art is a really nice bridge, and I'm happy that it exists because, again, sometimes I can't really, or even more often, am just not willing to vocalize those feelings. And sometimes a work of art can kind of draw that out of me, or kind of force me to confront certain things that either I didn't know were there or I didn't want to confront. So that's always been, for me, even in the most uncomfortable of times, it's always been a big plus for me in terms of art.
Thank you for appreciating the visual arts. Stephen, you are talented in different ways that I'm not. So, like writing, for instance, you are good at writing, you're good at poetry and all that. And I read your stuff and it's pretty good. Um, so in that term now, wait, that is a different language in the arts community, and something that I just don't gravitate, I can't do it myself, you know? Not saying I can't do it, probably can, but it's not my talent and I don't want to fake it, you know? But with the visual arts, sometimes it does take practice, you know, building those techniques, the textures and things like that when it comes to painting, the different mediums you combine together to make something express bigger and all that. I learned that at such a young age, again, at the age of 6, when I walked into my uncle's room and seen a portrait. Okay. Drawing, it's just a repetitive thing that I was doing. And then I combine again, going to school, I studied, and then I actually learned a lot more with that in AP Studio classes and courses, you know, about painting, shading. And also they told me many times, just be vulnerable, you know, in some ways. That is not easy, by the way, when it comes to like such a young age to be vulnerable, even up to adult right now. It's not easy, but it's something that I learned as I was growing up, you know, and within a couple years, I mean, I've before 2 years ago, I stopped painting, I stopped drawing. I was not doing any sorts of art. I was just solely focused on the normal, I guess you can say, world. And that was just like not helping me out mentally, I guess you can say, and emotionally. Like it did not help me to grow at all. Doing the repetitive things. So when I picked up, when I was like forgetting, when I was by myself in space, and I decided, you know what, I need to push myself and I need to create, and that's all of a sudden all those emotions and feelings and negative and positive emotions and all that came through. I just started to create and draw, and it just came out, you know, naturally. But it also was visually some work that people can say, you know what, it's something that actually he's been practicing for quite some time. You know that, which is true. I've been doing it for quite some time. Words does help because, you know, when you write down descriptions of what made you do certain things, like your project, if you did some poetries or writing, it was same thing visually. What made you to do that? And people may look at it and they're like, okay, this is very interesting. Okay, they will say some of them, yeah, will pass by. It doesn't captivate them, and it's okay, you know. But when you read what's the description of the painting, for some reason with that and the art, it combines together and people are like, oh wow, I completely understand. I completely understand why he used that color. I completely understand why he used that object. I completely, you know, like why, let's just say if I did a portrait, why the woman looked sideways or looked down or up and all that. And you can, you know, that's when people start to gravitate a little bit more into the artwork, and, you know, they purchase it too.
So to kind of rope things back into the depression anxiety sense, we've already discussed kind of like how art can take on different languages, how like, you know, you may not be able to write, but I may not be able to engage in the visual arts. And one of the major hallmarks of depression or anxiety is where like people can't communicate how they feel, or they can't tell people. That's why like there are suicides where people are like, I never saw it coming. This person was so, you know, they seemed so happy, blah, 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 because they can't release those emotions in any type of way. How is it that you're able to express these sometimes really difficult emotions and process them in such a way that they can be turned into something like physical and positive, even though they come from a rather dark place?
Again, when I discovered about depression, anxiety, I went to Google first. I searched and see what the heck is really going on with me, mentally. It just felt weird, you know. You know, when you're a kid, you're definitely like carefree in some ways. It's just like you go outside and you play with your friends, neighborhood kids, and all that. You're playing tag. You're just enjoying time. Growing up, it was not that easy, and I understand there's a lot of people out there who are, they see a trauma experience or traumatic experience such at your early age, and I've seen it in my time, and I understand when that boils inside you, and you're like, oh, you ask why. Why is this happening? I have friends who are much happier than I am, or like, why is this happening to me? And that's a big question and all that. And honestly, it's like it's unfortunate that happens in the household with younger kids. You know, they can't escape much, and it's not easy. And I can relate and I can understand. But that's why I had art. So I focused. I had music on and had my sketchbook open and I literally was just like drawing. I was creating comic book characters. I was creating a story, it was fantasy, yes, but it took me away from the reality, in some sense until, go the next day, go to school and do this regular stuff and come back home. And I repeated this for years. I am lucky to have or to be a part of a community where there are so many talented people. You understand? Like you mentioned, writers, just musicians, DJ players. I don't even know how to DJ, performers. And I'm lucky to actually build some type of relationship with them and discuss, hey, I have an idea, I have something that I want to do to express for people with mental disabilities, people who are actually having issues at home, and also committing suicide. It is a big thing that we need to be aware of. Um, I myself, I'm a victim of one of them. I've tried to commit suicide just because I felt so low in point in time in my life. I felt like I was not worth it enough. I'm glad that I did not do that. I'm glad that I pushed myself to do better. And I hope that other people do the same because it's not the end of the world after all. You just got to stay stronger. And if that means to take a step back and figure out what's really going on within yourself. And I learned this again at the age of 13. I remember 12 or 13 years old. I was like, okay, I'm going through this depression, but let me actually figure out what else I can do. And that drawing was it, like I mentioned before. But in this community, I gathered all these people who are very talented. And I described to them, okay, this is what my goal is. I want to create something fantasy, that brought back when I was a kid. I want to create something different. I want people to feel happy, feel like in a different world. And that's what happened last year at the Whimsical Night Dream show that I orchestrated. I had performers who understood my vision, understood what I was looking for, a musician who also understood what I was looking for and all that. And we all worked together, makeup artists and all that. We all worked together to create this fantasy, okay, and speak about the mental awareness. I was a part of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and I had two guest speakers to come over. And when they came over, again, they spoke about what's their cause, to raise awareness, to bring programs to schools. And that was my time to really shine and to really be vulnerable in front of people and talk, hey, you're not alone. I'm also in this. I've experienced this mental war, and I am willing to be open to help. You understand? And if I can walk this path and be a good guide, I guess, to other people or influence to other people, and know, hey, this person struggled for such a young age all the way up to now to an adulthood with this mental problems, um, or issue, whatever you want to call it. But I want people to understand that again, I can relate to them. I understand, and there's different steps that you can take to help when it comes to these things. Either go to a facility, a clinic, and all that, talk to a doctor and all that, and just and describe what's really going on with you. Is there anything else that I can do. And there's so many places in a nonprofit organization that are open to help out, Or when I express it in my art, when I communicate, when people ask questions, and when I'm there on the shows, I talk to them, and I'm open up to to be vulnerable and talk to them. Hey, I am going through this, and I'm hoping that other people can understand this without judging me completely. But you're capable of actually pushing yourself through this um, war or this mental difficulty.
My next question to you would be based on everything you said, because I kind of feel like you've covered quite a few bases. So, in an attempt to simplify it, or not just simplify it, but to make it relatable to a community and to a group that so desperately wants to be related to, what would you say to the kid who is drawing and sketching and he thinks his art is shit and people tell him that it's good and he just doesn't believe it, and he is depressed and he's anxious and he's overthinking it and he doesn't see his actual true worth? What would you say to that person? How would you advise them? How would you pull them out? Not that it's, not even how would you pull them out. How would you make him feel that he matters? How would you make him feel that his creation matters? What would you tell him to kind of just like pull him out of the trenches at that point?
I associated with many kids before. Like, they came to me before and they showed me there's some of the sketches and things like that. And I'm very happy that they're actually pretty open to show me what they have. I just try to encourage them that you are completely unique. Okay. All artists are hard on themselves regardless. We're our own worst enemy. And a lot of people are regardless. And I just want them to understand, know that, hey, try not to. I guess you can say try not to be so hard, because you will find in time, you will find your own unique trait, your unique way to draw, or medium that you would like to use. Because from you can sketch doodle right now, and years from now you could probably doing like digital designing or graphic designing or something else, or probably have your own fashion industry, in the fashion industry, where you can have your own line and all that. So it's like, don't rush it right now. Enjoy what you have right now. You're a kid. You're young. Even young adults too. Come on, you're young too. Don't be so hard on yourself. I understand. Again, I've been there, but try to tell yourself, the other voice in your head, hey, take a step back. Try not to be so hard on yourself, because the second voice, in your head, just be like, okay, you know what? If I need help, okay, in my art and creativity and art, ask somebody else who is in the art industry. If I'm around, obviously I'm there to help out. Or ask your art teacher, and every school should have, I'm hoping, you have an art teacher and all that. Ask those things. Or you have influencers, around. Write a message, write an email and all that. But in the meantime, try not to be so hard on yourself. Try not to critique yourself completely hard and all that. Because when it comes to that, you start feeling down. You start feeling like you're not worth it, or this thing is not worth it, and then bad voices in your head starts to come, and then you go downhill. Again, I took a time of not drawing for many years, and that was like bad, because I lost myself. Even if you're doodling something really small, like Kirby. I use that because a lot of people can draw Kirby. I mean, I'm hoping people can draw Kirby, but like something simple. But they say, oh, the eye looks kind of really weird, and one is higher than the other. So what? My thing is, I'm so happy that you're trying. I'm so happy that you're doing it. My thing is, keep going, keep drawing, keep sketching. You will find out. You'll find out whether this is a path that you want to take continuously, or this is a hobby that you want to do, and it's okay too. But it's supposed to be, for me, use it as a therapy thing. Express your emotions, express your feelings on paper if you can, or on canvas if you can, or on a tablet digitally if you can.
Essentially, art is like beauty in the eyes of the beholder. Like, art to me is not art to you. Good art to me is not good art to you. However, one thing we can agree on is that the Orlando Weekly saw something in you because you were actually just featured in it today at the time of recording. I actually haven't even read the article yet because it just came out today. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that and what that whole article entailed? I mean, again, by the time this airs, it's going to be a little outdated, but just tell me a little bit about that and yeah.
Yes, for the Orlando Weekly, actually, well, it was a project from a photographer named Max, and he came by and to my house and was, wanted to ask questions, which by the way was recommended by a good friend of mine. And he was wondering, like, what am I doing during this time? I answered, some few questions here and there, and I wanted to discuss a little bit more what I'm doing in the art community. I'm creating designs for the small local businesses to help with build the economy a little bit more, draw more attention by also creating things that represents the city of Orlando, like like the Swan or downtown or the skyline, even like the lines, like the Pride and all that. So I'm creating those things, and they really were intrigued, but that I was doing certain things like this, and also that I was part of the helping the arts and culture fair, judging to create more arts here in Orlando, and also a part of the LGBTQ community, which I am, the Quality of Florida, helping giving ideas for events and shows and things like that. So that's why they came by. They want to ask those questions and all that. And this front porch series, it was pretty interesting, because I was really I just stepped outside on the front porch and then just, discuss it for a few things that I'm doing and what I'm up to currently. Again, building my art business and just continuous painting. I mean, that's what I do as an artist, just to show more visual arts out here during this time.
I really have to say, I am really looking forward to about a year or two from now when we kind of see like the different artists or different business ideas that were born out of this pandemic kind of starting to grow to fruition. We're all kind of encountering a certain level of hardship, which tends to birth itself to innovation in art. And I'm certain that even like at a time where it was hard to have any type of growth in a lot of aspects, I'm sure that a lot of people found a way to do it. And I'm really excited to see how all of that turned out. And it'll take a year or two, maybe even more than that, but I think it's going to be really exciting. So I've got to ask, what would you say is your personal philosophy? I ask everyone who comes on here, what's yours?
Right now in my life is more ask and you shall receive. It really is. You are in a community. Okay. I am in a community. Okay. I'm in a different community. I'm in the community in the arts and also community in the LGBTQ. And as a starting artist, again, a couple of years ago, I was just so nervous, so afraid to even like speak up. I just like, let me submit my art pieces and here and here and here, and let's see how that goes. But no, you need to start building relationship with other people. Okay. If you're stuck, if you don't know where to go, just ask. There's multiple artists out there who actually are experienced, who's done things here and there. You understand? For me, I remember this close friend of mine who is a great artist in my opinion, and she did add some extra like mediums into her art, and I asked her, what is that you use for this? Ask me, am I using it now? Heck yeah, I'm using it right now. I'm using that because I loved the way it looked in her art piece, but I can use that in my own art piece, in my own vision. You understand? So just don't be afraid to open up and ask for help either, just ask.
Anyway, Omar, thank you as always. It is literally always a pleasure to engage with you about these issues. And
thank you.
And what I think you try to convey through your art and what I get from you and your art is it's really nice to know that someone else gets it.
Well, thank you for having me here at Overheard Orlando. I really appreciate it. And, I believe the work that you do, spreading awareness or sharing people's talents and things like that in the community here in Orlando. So that's actually pretty dope.
Thanks. I really appreciate that. Well, that was quite an interesting interview with a most fascinating man. These last couple of episodes have kind of had a recurring theme of interpersonal relationships, and he really tied into what Corey was saying a couple episodes back about asking for help, and that is just so important. But as much as we should be telling people that it's okay to ask for help, we should be also being cognizant of when people need help and not shunning them when they do ask. In any field, be it artistic or not, I think that's just so important. Thank you so much for listening. You can check me out on Instagram at Overheard Orlando Podcast, or shoot me an email at overheardorlandopodcast@gmail.com. As per usual, have a great week and stay true.